AJ Griffin, since he stepped into being like a part-time starter for the Atlanta Hawks, I think has been super, super impactful just with timely shooting. This is a team that desperately needs someone who can come out there and be a sniper from three, right? Like we knew that AJ Griffin would knock down shots. We felt confident that he would come in and just be an immediate floor spacer. We had questions about everything else, but at the very least, he has come in and done that. While also, I think, showcasing a little bit more off the bounce than what we got to see at Duke. That's the big thing for me. He's actually a very capable attacker of closeouts and very capable in terms of finishing in that like 7 foot and in area so far this season. So the role he's been able to play on an Atlanta Hawks team that desperately needs him to be impactful and effective out there has been huge, I think. Like this is a team that after trading Kevin Huerter nonsensically this summer, they really needed a wing to step up and be a guy that can space the floor for DeJounte Murray and Trae Young. AJ Griffin has surprisingly, as a rookie, I think, been able to do that and being able to do it very, very effectively.
He looks healthy. He looks less square and kind of mechanical and block-like when he's moving out there on the floor. Like he looks better. And that's translating to the off the bounce stuff. You know, the shooting is so important because that's always going to be his bread and butter. He's got an unbelievable stroke. And when you're playing next to point guards like DeJounte Murray and Trae Young, getting catch and shoot threes is going to happen a lot. So Griffin being able to find minutes as a rookie hasn't been a major surprise for me. I just want to continue to see a little bit more on the defensive end of the floor, Sam. That's one area where, like, if the energy can hold up, if he can rebound really effectively, then yeah, he's going to be one of the more impactful rookies that we have this entire season. I think that even as the Hawks get a little bit healthier, like he's got his spot in the rotation pretty much stamped out.
I would think so. I mean, he's certainly earned it at this point. We just don't even know in terms of like where that team is going to fall. It feels like there are still some things up in the air with them, but you know, AJ Griffin is a guy that I had at number 11 pre-draft, and I felt like I was low on him. I think you were even lower than I was comparably for people, and he ends up going 16 if I remember correctly, and I think people were surprised by that. I do think that we didn't get to see the best of AJ Griffin at Duke last year is clearly what the message is at this point so far. AJ Griffin struggled with injuries over the course of his second 2 seasons in high school, got hurt before his season at Duke. And I think he struggled to really get into the flow of what the Blue Devils wanted to run in that final Coach K season that was kind of weird and ended in the Final Four, but it felt like they ended in the Final Four, but like it felt like they never totally brought it together with the talent that they had coherently, weirdly. And I think Griffin was probably the biggest person who suffered in terms of draft stock last year because Duke couldn't really figure out how to utilize him on the fly after he'd missed that early part of the season. And now that he looks healthy and is playing in more open spaces in the NBA, you're starting to see a lot more of the high school AJ Griffin that we saw when he was way younger and looked like a real potential all-star, potentially. Like, that's the thing. Like, Atlanta might have hit on another, like, very high-level guy here if he continues to get back to the level he was when he was, like, 16 years old.
No, he was great. He was great back then. I got to see him play a lot when he was in high school, was recruiting one of his teammates when I was a college coach. He was so good. Like top 5 in any draft good. Like he looked great when he was younger.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just took him some time, I think, to, you know, maybe get back to that full health as much as anything. But I have him at number 4. I would have him as a first team all rookie guy right now.
Yeah. I get it. It's certainly defensible because he comes in, he plays his role, he knows what his role is, and he executes it. You know, I got to ask you this question, Sam. If we're talking about guys who played through injury or just never were 100% at college, and knowing the potential they had in high school, and then they end up slipping just a little bit in the draft and quickly redeeming themselves as a rookie. How do we feel about Dariq Whitehead? I know we said we're not going to talk too much about, current draftable guys, but like 2023, we said we're going to focus on the NBA tonight. But doesn't that give some sort of a parallel here of a guy who missed the beginning of his freshman season, hasn't looked fully healthy and right? And if he continues to get better, he's going to be a bargain if he falls outside of the top 10 or 12.
I think that that's right for the most part. I will say that I liked AJ's tape when he was like 16 and like playing for Team USA and, playing for Stepanak and like everything like that, right? Like I liked that tape more than anything of Dariq Whitehead's that I've seen. This isn't like a slight on Dariq Whitehead. We just said that like AJ Griffin looked like a top 5 guy in any draft back then. And that's absolutely accurate, I think. In Dariq's case, I've always thought that he was like a slightly overrated athlete. And because of that, I worry a little bit about the way that translates to the next level. But he's certainly a guy where teams are going to have to dive way back into the high school tape and figure out, okay, is this just first year coach at Duke? He missed the first part of the season due to injury. How do we try and contextualize everything we've seen from Dariq Whitehead? The Duke tape, like that we've seen already, is almost like we're throwing out with Dariq Whitehead, I think.
Right.
You almost probably haven't seen anything that is really valuable at this point. Going forward, I think you will see things that are valuable and real insights that are worth exploring. But at this point, I feel like we probably haven't seen anything resembling the real Dariq Whitehead at this point.
Yeah. Well, I am struggling as an evaluator to try to figure out how much of a factor some of these injuries that we see from guys should play into rankings and how we end up slotting them on draft boards where they should end up going. Because I look back at AJ Griffin and I think I was too low on him. I had him at 16 last year, like right where he was drafted, nothing too crazy. But he's already outperforming that, and he still doesn't look 100% of the health and the athlete that he was before some of these injuries. So part of me feels like there's just an overreaction to bad play that's caused by health as much as by talent. And I don't really know how to balance the scales in the right way right now.
I think you're right. But let's move back to rookies at this point,
Sure.
Because Dariq is a weird conversation that is like a tangent. And I'm glad we talked about it because it is very interesting in the context of AJ Griffin, but I think we got to move back to rookies.
Yeah.
If we want to get out of here in a reasonable time.